Morning, guys. This morning's presentation is nutrition related, and we're going to focus on the six main offenders. Um, those of you who have got the nutrition packs will obviously have seen in phase one, we talk about the six main offenders, and really we only scratch the surface with them in the nutrition plan, and today I want to sort of go into them in a little bit more detail and talk about why these food groups or nutrients that we're going to specifically focus on today, why we need to be really careful with them in our diet. Um, so again, we're probably not going to get very deep into the each individual sort of nutrient or topic, because there's so much research and so much information available on each individual section. But it will at least allow us to dig a little bit deeper and hopefully give you guys a bit more of an understanding as to why we sort of suggest that these certain foods are eliminated or reduced from people's diets. So the six main offenders are alcohol, caffeine, cow's dairy, sugar. When we talk about sugar, we're talking about mainly processed sugars, processed foods, and wheat. Um, we're gonna, as I say, dig a little bit deeper with each of these. Nutrition is such a difficult subject to understand because it's so contradictory. You know, you can find research that states that alcohol is good for you. You know, if you dig deep enough, you can find research that states that. You can also find it that says that it's not good for you. And on any of these topics, you'd be able to find good and bad in them all. And to a certain degree, there is going to be an element of truth within each of those research papers or the information that's being presented. There is going to be an element of truth to it all, but what we need to do is to sort of understand what the look at the big picture. So for example, you know, people talk a lot about how red wine has a good level of antioxidants and things like that, that can be produced, but what they forget to mention is the other toxins that are also produced in the whilst the alcohol's being produced. So obviously, yeah, you could argue and you could just focus on certain good elements within the wine, but as I say, we oftentimes forget all of the negative sides of it as well. Um, and as I say, whenever reading research or looking at a specific topic, it's really important to understand whether that piece of research was put together to produce a specific outcome, or whether it's been put together to find out something new, to find out something, and it's whether it's being put together by someone independent or whether, as I say, it's being funded by someone that wants a specific outcome, because there's lots of research out there that does that, and as I say, is very misleading to everyone. So, as I say, we're going to dig a little bit deeper. In your packs, you've got these bullet points already, and we say that alcohol, that it's a toxin, that it's causes your blood sugars to swing, and it can lead to fat storage. Caffeine is a powerful drug and affect brain function, hormonal balance, and sleep. Having said that, as I say, there are some benefits to caffeine as well, but as I say, for most people, they're abusing it, they're using it as a stimulant. And for those people, which as I say is a lot, we do need to make sure that we've got caffeine under control. So in our phase one of the nutrition plan, we talk about how we need to completely eliminate caffeine to start with. And that's not to say that it can't come back in eventually, so long as we're using a good quality source. You know, in the form of coffee or so on, but not in a processed format like Red Bull. We want to look at cow's dairy, and how sort of cow's dairy, if you can get a really good high quality raw source, is okay. But if it's pasteurized, how damaging that is to the actual milk, but how also it's damaging to our bodies as well. Sugar, obviously, most people now have got a good awareness that sugar is very damaging to our bodies. It leads to us gaining lots of weight. It also helps to feed a disease as well. Strictly no processed foods, so for obvious reasons, processed foods pretty much contain hidden trans fats, sugars, and lots of other things that we really shouldn't be consuming, that the body sort of can't handle. And strictly no wheat. So wheat is or gluten specifically is a protein that our body struggles to sort of digest and break down, and that's hidden in pasta, breads. Lots of grains. It can leave you with causing weight gain, feeling lethargic, bloating, gas. So let's get started with alcohol first. So how alcohol ruins your health. Um, as I say, drinking. I'm not saying that you should never drink alcohol, but I think people should definitely go through periods where they try to significantly reduce and take alcohol out, maybe for a short while, to let their bodies sort of recover and recuperate after periods of drinking. There was research that was conducted where they used guinea pigs, and what they did was they looked at them, and they looked at what was the difference between those that binged versus those that sort of consumed the alcohol over a moderate amount of time, but both sets had the same level of units. So, for example, those that binged had 21 units of alcohol. Those that spread it out throughout a week had 21 units of alcohol. It's just one did it in a binging fashion, and one group did it in a spread out sort of way. And as you can see, the sort of research conducted there sort of shows that moderate to binge drinking can increase liver stiffness, which is it increases the risk of liver cirrhosis. After 1 month, the liver stiffness of the binge drinking brothers was increased from 3.9 to 4.9, 25% increase in liver inflammation, which leads to cirrhosis. The moderate drinking brothers fared nearly as badly. His liver stiffness increased from 3.9 to 4.8. So spreading the drinking out did not make a significant difference in terms of liver damage caused by 21 units of alcohol per week. Diminishing of formation of memories. So as you can see there, it says how this is why you may not remember what you did whilst you were drunk. Alcohol also causes the hippocampus to shrink, which affects memory and learning, promotes systemic inflammation. Inflammation has been linked to so many health issues, and obviously most of our aim is to reduce inflammation within the body as much as we can, increase stress on the heart, so raising your risk of cardiomyopathy, high blood pressure and strokes. Blood alcohol level spiked to 2 to 3 hours after your last drink, which means it may occur in the middle of the night during sleep. Raises your risk of accidental death due to choking or on choking on your vomit, or suffering cardiac failure or stroke whilst asleep. You can see there at the bottom as well, we've put there that exercise may ameliorate some risks. So chronic drinkers who exercise 5 times a week um, have the same rate of mortality of those who never drink alcohol, in part by concentrating on inflammation caused by or counteracting inflammation caused by alcohol. So alcohol, as I say, we could spend probably several hours focusing on all of the negative effects that alcohol could have on health. Most of us only ever think of food in or liquid calories in terms of, of of calories, or liquid nutrients in terms of calories. We don't really think of it as anything else other than a fuel. But what we need to really understand is how these nutrients affect our bodies from a health point of view. Um, so hopefully that has dug a little bit deeper for you. Um, Caffeine. So caffeine, this is a stimulant. This stimulant has a half-life of 5 hours, which means 25% of it will still be in your system even 10 hours later, and 12.5% 20 hours later. Um, plus, in some people, caffeine is not metabolized efficiently, leaving you feeling its effects even longer after consumption. So, an afternoon cup of coffee or tea will keep some people from falling asleep at night. As we know, caffeine or coffee does interrupt with sleep patterns. Most people, or a lot of people, do struggle with sleeping. So, if you're using caffeine as a stimulant to get you going, then oftentimes it's because your nutrition is lacking. You're not eating the right things. Maybe you've got a lot of other stress factors going on in your life, and we're using caffeine in the wrong way. So that's why we talk about really trying to reduce that in our diets. Um, Processing the milk is the problem. So as I said earlier, cow's milk in particular, we want to try to significantly reduce. And the reason for it is just the quality of it. The quality just isn't there. So the path that transforms healthy milk produce into allergens and carcinogens begins with modern feeding methods that substitute high protein soy-based feeding for fresh green grass from fresh green grass, and breeding methods to produce cows with abnormally large pituitary glands so that they can produce 3 times more milk than the old-fashioned scrub cow. These cows need antibiotics to keep them well. So, as you can see, a lot of the milk being produced is from unhealthy animals, for starters. So that obviously makes a huge impact on the quality of the milk that they're producing. Their milk is then pasteurised so that all valuable enzymes are destroyed. And that obviously massively impacts again on we're reliant on a lot of them enzymes to help bring a lot of the nutrients into the body and make it usable. So milk in its current form that we consume it is a pretty lifeless and worthless product. So again, we would look for other substitutes. Raw, organic, non-pasteurised milk would be so much more nourishing, but obviously that's very difficult to get hold of. So we would always say look for other options. We've got almond milk, you've got rice milk, goat's milk would be probably a much higher quality than cows. Sugar, everyone understands now, as we've said before, how sugar has been linked to obesity, diabetes, and really it's linked to cancer as well. So as you can see there, cancer cells need glucose to thrive, and carbohydrate turns into glucose in your body. In order to starve the cancer cells, you have to eliminate its primary food source, sugar, which includes all non-vegetable carbohydrates. Um, you know, as I say, if you look into this, as I say, a lot of the information I'm sharing with you here has come from a source, Dr. McCullough, and his information on all of these topics is outstanding. You know, it's really heavily researched, and as I say, if you want to dig much deeper with this, then you could definitely do that. But I mean, oftentimes cancer is, you know, it's caused by our environment internally, our environment. So what we need to do is we need to change the environment internally to have a massive effect on the cancer. And sugar is a massive way of doing that if we can reduce it. Fructose, you know, fructose, which is in a lot of fruit. Again, sometimes there's been a lot of people that have been treated with to eliminate cancer by eliminating certain food groups, not permanently, but for a little while until their body is better. So even if you're getting your sugar from natural food sources like fruit, we do still need to be a little bit careful that we're not overdoing it. You know, so if you're eating fruit all day long and it's containing lots of fructose, then we need to look at reducing that, and maybe making sure that our meals are well balanced, that we're having a good healthy source of protein, we're having a good healthy source of healthy fats, having a good source of carbohydrates. We're not getting rid of them, but we're choosing the right types of carbohydrate, maybe from vegetable sources that are lower GI, that are going to release the sugar much slower. And then gluten. So we talk about reducing wheat and gluten in your diet. You know, everyone knows about celiac disease, and how that affects a lot of people. But research suggests that human gut. The human gut is massively affected by wheat and gluten, um, and that it can lead to what's known as like a leaky gut. Leaky gut is basically where, as I say, the substances can leak through the gut wall, and they can cause havoc anywhere in the body, cause autoimmune disorders. Oftentimes with gluten, the body doesn't sees it as like an enemy, if you like, and it tries to destroy it. And as I say, that can cause disruption in the gut wall. It can cause disruption anywhere else as well throughout the body. So it is really important that, as I say, if you do suffer with symptoms like bloating and you know, feeling like there's been lots of symptoms that have been associated with gluten sensitivity, not necessarily celiac disease, but gluten sensitivity. Say, for example, if you struggle with concentration, if you're struggle with depression, autoimmune disorders, you know, there's a lot of symptoms that are linked to this particular issue. So if you do suffer with them, what I would recommend that you do is take gluten out, and some people say that you need to really eliminate it for several months before you will see a massive effect. But most people, when I speak to them, when they've eliminated it for at least 4 weeks, they notice a significant difference in their health and how they feel. If you don't, then obviously you can always add it back in. But for most people, if they take wheat gluten out of their diet, they do notice a massive difference in how they feel. And they can oftentimes bring more nourishment into their body. They're not they're not malnourished. They can bring more of that nutrients in because their gut wall, their gut is so much healthier and stronger. The final one on the list was processed foods. So processed foods, obviously, the main reason for eliminating them is because processed foods contain pretty much everything that we've talked about. They'll contain gluten, they'll contain sugars, they contain caffeine, they contain preservatives, all trans fats, all those sorts of things that we really need to look at eliminating. So hopefully you've found this webinar useful. As always, if you've got any questions or anything in particular that you need to work on, that you're struggling with, reach out to me. You can email me, text or call, and we can have a chat and sort out meeting up to discuss any specific needs relating to you.